Greetings, folks. It's the 20th of November. I'm here at Union Chapel, London, for the North Face Speaker Series. It's a beautiful fall afternoon in the town of London. I had a chance to visit the River Thames and a couple of the other scenic places here, so real treat to be here.
Well, I better introduce you, sir. This is the legendary Mr. Conrad Anker from Colorado, the United States of America. Montana. Well, it's mountainous anyway.
Yeah.
And this man has just about been and done everything in mountaineering. We'll have a chat about a few other things in a moment. But first things first, you had a rather weird night last night, didn't you? Whilst the rest of us were tucked up in bed in London, what were you doing?
Well, we have a portaledge pitched outside the Union Chapel here on the side of the building, and it was the same one we used on Meru. So I didn't spend the whole night in there. I wish I could have said. I was like, but there was a hotel room, we pitched it, and I spent a few hours up there. It was kind of a nice adventure to be on a ledge in the city, but I didn't spend the whole night.
Well, it was a little bit safer than the last time you were spending time in a similar contraption. That was on Meru. Perhaps you'd like to explain to the non-aficionados why a 20,000-foot mountain is, certainly the way that you went up, is regarded as one of the most dangerous and challenging tasks for any mountaineer.
Meru is in the Garhwal area of the central India, and it's a 6,300 meter peak, and the last 700 meters of it are this overhanging granite big wall. So you need the skills that you have in Yosemite to climb there, the big wall climbing. So we had a custom-built 3-person portaledge, and that's what we lived in for 12 days as we climbed the route.
And it's the shark's fin, the notorious shark's fin.
Yeah.
There aren't many things left, are there, sort of unconquered by mountaineers, but that was one of them, wasn't it?
The shark's fin was certainly one of the top unclimbed and well-known. There's plenty of walls and faces and aspects on peaks, ridges that one can go explore. The shark's fin had this certain allure to it because so many people had failed in their attempt to climb it.
Now, obviously you succeeded, which it must have been a euphoric moment when you got to the top. I don't know whether you had any energy left to be euphoric, and of course you had to get down again, but a great moment nonetheless.
Yeah, the top is probably energy and time-wise, you're about 80% there, and then another 20% to get down. Distance-wise, you're only halfway, so it's not till you get all the way down to the bottom that you've completed the journey.
Now, Conrad, prior to this, of course, I mean, you've done so many things, but perhaps what you're best known for was the Mallory and Irvine expedition on Everest, where I'm not sure whether you expected to, but lo and behold, you actually found the body of George Mallory. I'd like your view on that, because you must have had a whole range of emotions about finding who to me is a great man there on the slopes. Perhaps you'd like to convey your emotions to me.
Mallory, in the Mallory expedition, it was 13 years ago, so it's time to move it on. And it was a very a unique opportunity. I'd never been to Everest, and with 2 weeks to go, I was invited along on the expedition. And my primary goal was not a searcher, but to have a crack at the second step and see if Mallory would have been able to climb it. And then on the 1st of May, I was out traversing around, and I came across Mallory's frozen and well-preserved body. And a very humbling moment we build our current success on the shoulders of those who came before us, and it's no exception in climbing, especially with Mallory. So whether or not he made it to the top, we'll never know, and perhaps we shouldn't know, and it's best left unsaid. But what we do have is a great understanding of how difficult it was to be on the mountain, to climb where they did with the equipment that they had.
Yeah, well, I'm an old romantic. I'd like to think he made it. I think you're right. It's probably best to leave it at we'll never know. But whatever happens, he obviously, at the very least, got extraordinarily close in what are, compared to today's conditions, and even in the 50s when Hillary did it, very much sort of substandard equipment. So I guess the man's heroic, whether he did it or not.
Yeah, and to get within 1,000 feet of the summit with the gear that they had, it's inspiring. I just am like, wow, to have pulled that off is pretty amazing.
Now, what is a man who's reached the summit of so many mountains? What's his next mountain? I mean that metaphorically, but maybe in your case, maybe literally.
Well, this past year I had a trip to Denali, a trip to Meru, and then my third trip to Everest. And so I turned 50 a week from today. So this is my last interview.
Surely not, Conrad.
My last interview was a 49-year-old. But I'd like to raise the awareness on climate change. As mountaineers and alpinists, we're seeing the change in the mountains firsthand. The glaciers are melting, things are just really changing. And to be able to see that, to see what's going on there is really going to be to share that with people. And then on a personal level, be there for my family and help the boys finish up their education. That's top priority. And then it'd be great to climb an 8A, which is a difficulty standard. So
I was going to say, it sounded for a moment as if you were to do too many more climbs, but obviously you are. And a lot of people are doubting climate change, but I mean, you must be seeing it firsthand.
Yeah.
And it is happening, yeah?
Yeah, most certainly, especially high altitude and high latitude areas. So the poles and the extreme reaches. And so we look at classic routes like the route that Doug Scott climbed on the Ogre. That's melted out. And that route is no longer, people can't climb it. They've climbed Ogre by a different route. So there's an example of it. And then we look at the historical pictures of the first expeditions to Everest in 1924 to where we are now, and the glaciers are shrinking, and so we have to come to terms with that. And is there a correlation between parts per million of CO2 in the atmosphere and the changing climate that we're in? I certainly see that connection, and it's the next big frontier of exploration, which is how do we solve the juggernaut of 7 billion people? How do we clothe, feed, and shelter all these people with a limited amount of resources? And as a citizen of the United States and as a citizen of Europe and the UK, it's our responsibility, because we're such a carbon-intensive society, that we need to put the resources into education to get the future generations to figure out the engineering challenges to climate change. And but you and I are going to be here for another 40, 50 years. And
let's hope so.
Yeah, let's hope so. And things are good. But what are we going to leave the next 4 or 5 generations? And we just can't say, well, it's their problem. It's our problem, and we have to look ahead into it.
A couple more things, Conrad, then I'll let you go. Everest, quite a few people have climbed Everest now. And it's, I guess in some respects, it's hard, but it's not the hardest mountain in K2 or even the chances with Meru. But the fact that there's so many great climbers still up there, 10, 15 years after they passed away, it's a very dangerous mountain. And if you go up there, you've done it 3 times now, yeah? Yeah. And I guess you've got to be a little bit lucky and just hope that the gods are on your side.
Yeah, Everest is still a challenge, and people discount it. But if you've been up there, you know it's hard work, and the body just does not do well to a lack of oxygen. So do it without supplemental oxygen, and that makes it legitimize it one step even more. But
there's a lot of great climbers who never came back.
Yeah, certainly. So we tip our hats to them.
Yeah. And well, congratulations on Meru.
Yeah, thank
you. And keep spreading the word, because it's massively important. And I hope you find your next mountain soon.